Hey guys, Terry here. I wanted to show you a video about Mosaic Moments. As you know, I love to scrapbook, and the thing I love most about scrapbooking is the photographs. So to me, it's a lot about the photos, and I don't decorate a lot on my pages. I've kind of gotten away from adding the ribbon and the buttons and the brads, and those things are fabulous because I think it does add, dimension to your pages. But my favorite layouts are when I put the photos in the book. And I try to, when I'm taking the picture, tell the story and frame things appropriately. But then I do like to, crop the photos down and just kind of tell the part of the photo that tells the story. So I love Mosaic Moments. Now what their system is, they've got paper that has the lines on it, and they are a 1-inch square, and then there is a 1/8 gap between the squares. And what that allows you to do is you can have something that's 1 inch, or you could have something that's 2 inches, or something that's 3 inches, like this one's 3 by 3. This one's 4 by 3. And then these photos here were a little bit larger than the 3 by 4. I wanted to get this bridge and show that we were in the water going under a bridge. So this one I matted in order to make it fit. So this one's a 5 by 1, 2, 3, 4. So sometimes it does require matting. So they have dies that let you cut these out, and I'll show those in a second. But yeah, I'm just all about making the photos be as many as you can. It is amazing how many photos you can get on the page, because once you start trimming them down, I mean, this page here has 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I took 13 4x6s and made this page. So that is a lot of, when you print 4x6s, those take up a lot of space. But when you can trim them down, I just love this grid system. So I'll show you some here. This was one recent Texas trip. This one's here is a recent scrapbooking crop. This one's nice. They have all different colors of the paper. It comes in all different rainbows, and I have just a stack of each color. This isn't even all the colors. It's the common colors that I use. I love to have the black background because I think the photos do really pop. So that's what I love about the system. So I can't stress enough, you can get a lot of photos on the paper. I try to make the photos look, some kind of symmetry to them. So here I've got a picture of each person that was at the crop. I'm showing what the place looked like, that type of stuff. So I think you can get really creative. I don't use a lot of printed paper, but it is made that way too, so that you can use, you could fill in certain squares. If you didn't have this many photos, you could use different pieces of printed paper and add to that. The other thing they have is they have books with ideas. So, and they tell you which dies to use. So I'll link to their website. It's called Mosaic Moments. Their website is actually called SnapandCrop.com, where you can buy the paper and the grids and their idea books. The creator's name is Tami Potter, and she created this system a long time ago. And when she created it, it was basically using an X-Acto knife and cutting the pages. So when I first started doing it, I didn't use the X-Acto knife, but what I used was, I have this Creative Memories little small photo cutter, and I just simply put dots on my cutter so that when I'm cutting a piece of paper, grab a scrap here, when I'm cutting a piece of paper, if I know I'm making a 3x3 square, I will put it on the 3¼ inch, because that'll cover the 3 of the squares and then 2 1/8 inch gaps, and then I know to make it, you know, that size. So that's what size I would make it to be fitting on the grid paper and cover up 9 of those squares. So what you do is you line it up with the lines, and you can make it the size appropriately of your photo. Okay, so I used to do this. She had a system by which you would lay it on a grid and just cut your papers, but I decided that this worked best for me, and then I just took a little white gel pen and made the dots so that I knew exactly what size to cut it. They don't have to be square. You could also make a, like I could do a 2 1/8 by a 3 1/4. I mean, it's any combination of those, and then that'll appropriately cover up those squares. And sometimes you're trying to make something symmetrical on the page. Maybe you'd have this in the middle, and then you'd have all your different pictures along the outside. You can create any pattern. I go by what's in the photos. I want to show you the dies. I store my dies in this clear container, and I think it's made for holding cards. But then I have my mosaics in here. So their dies come like this, and it shows the different sizes. I mean, you can get the rectangle sizes. I think I've got them all in here. Get this open here. But notice the coloring scheme. So there's that size rectangle. Here's a longer rectangle. So this is a 1 inch by, I think 4 inches. This is the really long one. This is the squares. The 2 inch rectangle. So that was their original. Like I said, originally you used an X-Acto knife, and then they came up with the dies. The dies are really handy because then you can just lay it on your photo and kind of see what you want to cut out and how big you need to make it. So you might have something on your photo that's, you know, doesn't all fit in this rectangle, so then you use the bigger one. So that's those. They also have one that cuts apart a 4x6 photo so that you'd have a little gap. And this just adds interest to your photo. Sometimes I use this for like a mountain range or something where, okay, it's a mountain, it's not that all exciting, but you want to remember that from your trip. If you cut a little bit of a gap between it, or maybe it's a zoomed in picture of a flower bouquet, just putting that little bit of a gap just adds so much visual interest to the photo. So this is a good die to have. So that's the dies. And then they came out with the even fancier thing. So let's say you wanted to put a curve on your layout. So I really like these dies where they have, and I haven't played with these yet, but you could have, maybe this is your photo and you've got a big picture in the middle that you're showcasing, and then on the outside it could either be more of the photo or it could be printed paper. And there's some layouts that people have made with these that are just gorgeous. So that one's called the horizontal set. Here's one where a corner is cut out. So that's a really cool shape. That'd be hard to cut on your cutter. So that's a nice one to have. And then this one I haven't played with yet either, but this is so it makes a pie. So you might have an individual photo, and all together it's making a great big layout, because you could put all 4 of these pieces together on your layout. But it's called a quarter pie. I think they've got different sizes of it. But I thought these were, it's just such a neat cutting system. The last thing I want to show you is using your Brother ScanNCut, because I was at a crop this past week and kind of collaborated with a girlfriend, and she said, is there a way we could make a template that would you know, make the lines on the paper, so we wouldn't have to buy the grid paper. You could use any color of paper, or you could also do both sides of the paper, so that when you put it in your pocket, you've got it on both sides. So we started playing with how we could use the Brother ScanNCut to make a template, and just through kind of collaborating together and talking through it, it's like, well, you could have a piece of plastic and have the little slots, and then you could draw it. And I think when we said draw, Kerry looked at me and said, well, why couldn't the Brother ScanNCut draw it? So let me show you how we did that. Okay, so I have my Brother ScanNCut set up. These have been on sale for less than $225, so if you don't have one, shop around and get a good price on it. I highly recommend it. They have a newer model. I don't recommend the newer model. I think the 350 does everything that you need it to do. Mine's the 650, but there aren't that many features in the fancier one than the 350, so I do recommend the 350. But anyways, back to the Mosaic Moments. This is their grid paper, and like I said, it's created by Tami Potter. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scan and save this grid. Now I have it on the recognition black and white mode, because I've got, and I'm using the white paper because I think that's just the best contrast for the black lines on the white paper. And I am just going to hit start, and I am basically scanning these lines because I want to save this pattern. So I did the scan to data. It's recognizing all the little pixels. Okay. Give another second here. And then I'm going to save that image when it comes up on the screen. I noticed that on the screen it doesn't really show all the lines, but it does have it. Now remember, you've got outline, you've got the three different options there. So there's the outline, the inner and the outer, and then that one. The third one is the option we want. Okay, the first one just does an outline of the whole image. The second one does cut lines on the inside of it and the outside. We just want one cut line for each line that it sees. So we're saving that. Okay, and I'm just going to save it to my machine. Okay, the machine also lets you save it to a USB or your computer. Okay, so now I'm just going to go back to the home. This is always a scary question. Is it okay to delete it? It sounds like a weird question, right? We are not deleting it because we saved it to the computer. We saved it to the machine. So let me unload this map, and I'm going to load up a piece of paper, and then you'll see the magic. Okay. So I've simply put a piece of cardstock down on my mat, and then what I want to do is take the blade out, because we're actually going to draw the lines. So you take your blade out, and then in your it either came with your machine or you can buy these markers separately. There's a little button on the back of this marker thing. You push that in and then the lid comes open. You can take the lid off your marker. Carefully put your marker down inside it and close it. The lid can go on the top so you don't lose it. And then with the Brother logo facing out, you're dropping it back down in here. And this should close easily. If it doesn't close easily, you just don't have it popped in there correctly. Okay, so now we have that pattern saved. So let's go into Patterns, Save Data on the machine, and then notice I've got 7 pages worth here. You'll have, yours will be different. But I hit up to go to the last thing I saved, and here's the grid. Okay, I hit OK, I hit OK, and now it says, do you want to cut it or draw it? And of course I want to draw it. Okay, so I'm going to hit start. It tells me I've got about 3 minutes, so I'll pause the video while this draws. But I think it works really good. I'll come back when it's done. Okay, it just got done. Unload it. So notice, I'm going to point this out up here at the top. That was the, I don't want to be very clear about this, that is the trademark symbol. So while your Brother ScanNCut can do this, I am not condoning that you start making grid paper and selling it. I mean, this is a handy feature. I suggest using it to draw the grid on the back of the pages, but I do support that you buy their grid paper if that's what you're wanting to do. The price of it is just a little bit more than the piece of a cardstock, so I think this is something you would use sparingly. I think it's handy if you had a particular piece of paper that you wanted to you know, a certain color of paper, or maybe you wanted to do it on a printed paper that matched your other layout. But I can't stress enough that you cannot sell this because it is trademarked by Tami Potter. And the other thing I'll stress too, I didn't show this die. This one's handy for a 4x6. Again, it's going to put those little grid delineations between the squares. So it just, again, makes for another interesting layout. You know, just adds another little layer. And this one's called the die grid 2x2. You put this on a 4x6 photo, and that's going to cut it into squares. You could simply cut apart your photo, but this is just so nice to be able to pop it into your die cutting, you know, your die cutter, your electronic, or your manual die cutter, and cut apart the 4x6. The other thing I want to stress is they have the cutest little dies that fit on the grid paper. So this one says hello, this one's a sunshine, this one's adorable with the banners. At first I thought, well, I could just cut my paper to be this banner, but what they've done is they've made it the exact proper size so that when you cut it out, it fits on those squares, and it also covers the lines on the grid paper. So they've thought of everything for you. They've got these beautiful ones. Pages made with these mosaic dies. This one looks like a quilt pattern. This one too. They're just gorgeous. You can cut them on printed paper or solid cardstock. So I mean, I really love their dies. I love that they're getting fancier with all the different options that you just can't cut, you know, using your using your personal cutter. So yeah, so I will have links on my website to Mosaic Moments. Their website is snapandcrop.com. The creator is Tami Potter, and it's called the grid, what do they call it? It's just a grid paper system. So I hope that inspires you to check out their website and make grid layouts. Thanks, guys.